Have you ever paused to contemplate the enigma of individuals who seem to effortlessly grasp their desires, as if bending reality to their will? These figures are not necessarily endowed with superior intellect, greater wealth, or more profound talents than you possess. Yet, they consistently operate on a plane of existence that seems perpetually several moves ahead of everyone else. They perceive avenues of opportunity where others see only walls. They execute maneuvers so subtle and deft that their logic remains opaque to the masses. By the time the average person deciphers the game that was afoot, these masters of influence have already ascended to the summit, observing the rest of the world from a pinnacle of achievement, while others are still laboriously making their ascent. What secret lexicon do they command that remains unspoken to the majority? The unvarnished truth is this: the fundamental chasm separating the ineffectual from the commanding is not a matter of physical prowess, financial accumulation, or innate ability. It is, and has always been, the acquisition of a particular kind of gnosis, a deep, functional comprehension of how influence truly operates in the world. You see, the vast majority of people navigate their lives under the illusion that success is a reward for virtue, a prize for kindness, a natural consequence of diligent labor and patiently awaiting recognition from some higher authority. This very misconception is the precise reason that most people are condemned to a life of mediocrity. Because while you are meticulously adhering to a code of fairness and ethical conduct, another player on the board is engaged in a radically different contest, one governed by a set of ancient and immutable principles you were never formally taught. The genesis of all power resides not in the external world, but within the intricate architecture of the human mind. True virtuosos of strategy grasp a concept that eludes most people for their entire lives. They understand that the world operates according to a hidden framework of invisible statutes, the unwritten laws of power. These are not the sanitized regulations found within the pages of academic textbooks or corporate handbooks. These are the primal, often brutal axioms that have dictated the flow of human interaction for millennia. For a deeper exploration into these psychological mechanisms of power, subscribe to Dark Psychology Decoded to expand your understanding of influence and control. They are the invisible currents that distinguish leaders from followers, takers from givers, and ultimately those who triumph from those who are vanquished. Most people play the game with a sense of honor. Geniuses, however, do not play for honor. They play to win, employing a strategic calculus that transcends conventional morality. Now, this is not a summons to abandon your conscience or become a heartless manipulator. It is, however, a critical warning. If you remain ignorant of these laws, you can be certain that someone else will inevitably wield them against you, and you will be so thoroughly outmaneuvered that you won't even recognize the machinations at play. You will attribute your failures to unfortunate timing, a stroke of bad luck, or the whims of fate, when in reality, you were simply a pawn in a sophisticated game you never even knew was being played. 5 centuries ago, the Florentine diplomat, Niccolò Machiavelli, systematically decoded this arcane knowledge. He dedicated himself to studying the anatomy of power, how it is won, how it is consolidated, and how it is lost. Through his meticulous observations of princes, popes, and potentates, he unearthed a terrifying reality. Power is not a chaotic or random force. It moves in predictable patterns, adheres to discernible laws, and those who master this knowledge invariably come to control the levers of society. Today, we shall dissect 8 of the most potent and shadowy of these laws, the very strategies the geniuses employ to consistently outwit and outperform the competition. These are not uplifting aphorisms or feel-good motivational platitudes. They are cold, hard, calculated stratagems that have been honed and perfected over centuries by individuals who refuse to accept defeat. Once you see them, your perception of the world will be irrevocably altered. Once you understand them, the entire dynamic of your life will begin to shift. Absorb every word that follows, because overlooking even a single one of these principles could be the deciding factor between remaining mired in your current circumstances and finally achieving a definitive breakthrough. Let me pose a question to stimulate your thinking. Whom do you hold in higher esteem? The individual who is perpetually present, a constant fixture in your social and professional landscape, or the one who materializes only at moments of genuine consequence? Consider the person who is relentlessly available, incessantly texting, instantly replying, always there at a moment's notice, versus the one who periodically withdraws, leaving a space filled with a faint sense of mystery and anticipation. Herein lies a profound law that most people discover far too late in their journey. Unceasing presence is the silent executioner of respect. Contemplate this dynamic. When you make yourself endlessly accessible, what is the inevitable psychological outcome? People cease to appreciate your contributions. They stop assigning value to your time and your input. They begin to take your presence for granted, not out of malice, but because human nature is wired to devalue that which is abundant. You transition from being a notable figure into mere background noise, commonplace, predictable, and ultimately forgettable. However, the very instant you consciously retract your presence, the entire emotional and social equation is transformed. Suddenly, a vacuum is created. People start to wonder about your whereabouts. Inquiries about your well-being and activities begin to surface. In your absence, they are forced to confront the void you left, and in doing so, they belatedly recognize the value you brought when you were consistently around. Your perceived worth doesn't just increase, it skyrockets, not because of any intrinsic change in your character or abilities, but purely as a result of your newfound scarcity. This is the operational modality of a strategic genius. They comprehend that an overabundance of availability is corrosive to power. The more you are seen and heard, the less impactful your appearances and pronouncements become. This is not a manual for rudeness or a justification for playing manipulative games. It is about internalizing a fundamental economic and psychological truth. Scarcity is the engine of value. When you are always there, your presence becomes a common commodity, easily obtained and thus cheaply held. When you strategically disappear, your presence is elevated to the status of a rare and precious resource. Examine the figures in any field who command authentic, unwavering respect. They are not the individuals who frantically respond to every email within seconds. They are not the ones who feel compelled to attend every social gathering or meeting. They are, without exception, discerning and strategic. They make their presence felt when it truly matters, and they have the confidence to vanish when it does not. Machiavelli himself astutely observed a related principle, advising a ruler to make himself essential, but never commonplace. It is the calculated use of distance that imbues your presence with a potent aura. When you take a deliberate step back, you grant people the psychological space to miss you, to reflect on your importance, and to cultivate a desire for your return. Consequently, when you do choose to reappear, you command a level of attention and reverence that was previously unimaginable. What happens when you achieve mastery over this law? The entire dynamic of your relationships shifts. People no longer treat you as a convenient option to be exercised at their whim. They cease to operate under the assumption that you will invariably be available to them. Instead, they begin to initiate contact first. They start to demonstrate a newfound respect for your time. They find themselves competing for your attention rather than passively expecting it as their due. Yet, the vast majority of people engage in the exact opposite behavior. They chase, they overcompensate, they appear at events uninvited, they call and text with excessive frequency, all driven by a desperate fear of becoming irrelevant. And what is the tragic outcome of this frantic activity? They render themselves utterly invisible. Power is not cultivated by being omnipresent. It is forged by being strategically present in places of importance. Therefore, here is your mandate. Learn to pull back. Cease being so readily and universally available. Stop squandering your precious time on individuals who have demonstrated that they do not value it. Let them experience your absence. Let them be the ones to reach out. Let them come to the stark realization of what they are missing. Master the art of disappearing to amplify your worth. When you are a scarce commodity, you are perceived as valuable. When you are everywhere, you are perceived as nothing. This does not necessitate severing all ties or adopting a persona of cold indifference. It means you must become a disciplined guardian of your own presence. Make it an event. Show up with intention, not out of desperation. Strive to be the person whose arrival people eagerly anticipate, not the one they simply expect to always be there. The weak are in a state of perpetual presence. The powerful have mastered the art of the vanishing act. Embrace this law and observe with detached fascination how swiftly the behavior of others toward you begins to metamorphose. Witness how they start to accord you a different level of treatment. Watch how your intrinsic value ascends, for the simple reason that you finally stopped giving it away for free. Here is a piece of wisdom that many find unsettling, yet it is an undeniable truth of human interaction. The party that gives chase in any dynamic is the party that loses, without exception. You have undoubtedly witnessed this scenario unfold countless times. An individual desperately desires something, be it the attention of another, the approval of a superior, a lucrative business deal, or a coveted social connection. What is their instinctive course of action? They begin to chase. They push, they press, they pursue with a relentless and often palpable sense of urgency, and the more ardently they chase, the more rapidly their objective recedes into the distance, like a mirage in the desert. In stark contrast, you will often find another individual, seemingly sitting back and doing nothing at all, and yet everything they desire seems to flow effortlessly toward them. What accounts for this paradox? It is their implicit understanding of a simple but profound truth. Genuine power is fundamentally about control, and ultimate control is achieved by compelling others to move toward you, not the other way around. The moment you initiate a chase, you voluntarily abdicate your power. You instantly signal neediness, want, and a state of desperation. And desperation is the very antithesis of power. It is a scent that repels the very opportunities you seek to attract. However, when you skillfully position yourself not as the pursuer, but as the prize, the entire dynamic inverts. Suddenly, people are drawn into your orbit. They actively seek you out. They begin to compete for a moment of your time and attention. You are no longer in the supplicant's position of begging for a chance. You are in the sovereign's position of choosing from among your options. This is precisely how the grandmasters of strategy play the game. They do not exhaust their energy running after fleeting opportunities. Instead, they meticulously construct situations and cultivate an aura of such compelling value that opportunities are forced to run after them. Reflect upon the people you have chased in your own life, whether in romance, business, or friendship. Did your pursuit cause them to respect you more, or did it subtly diminish their estimation of you? Now, conversely, think about the times when you have been the one who was pursued. How did that experience feel? In each of those situations, who held the definitive position of power? The answer is starkly and unequivocally obvious. As Machiavelli noted, a leader who adapts his strategies to the prevailing conditions will prosper, whereas one who acts with rigid disregard for the context is destined to fail. The art of making others come to you is not rooted in arrogance or a sense of superiority. It is a calculated strategy. It is about the deliberate creation of a value proposition so undeniable, so magnetic, that people feel an irresistible compulsion to seek you out. Here is how this principle manifests in the real world. Instead of broadcasting your intentions to everyone in the desperate hope that someone will take notice, you focus inward and build something that is intrinsically worthy of notice. Instead of constantly asking for favors and introductions, you create ventures and opportunities that others are eager to be a part of. Instead of trying to persuade people of your value through words, you become so demonstrably valuable through your actions and results that they end up convincing themselves. It is often necessary to use bait. What constitutes bait in this context? Bait is anything that piques human curiosity or appeals to self-interest, a unique skill that others desperately need, a piece of exclusive information they crave, or a track record of results so impressive they cannot afford to ignore it. You dangle this bait, not with the anxiety of a beggar, but with the quiet confidence of a master, and then you allow their own ambition and desire to draw them toward you. The weak and the desperate knock on every door, hoping one will open. The powerful and the strategic build their own edifice and make others line up to knock on their door. Cease the futile practice of chasing people who do not reciprocate your energy. Stop pursuing objectives that require you to prostrate yourself and beg for consideration. Refuse to place yourself in positions where you are the one performing all the emotional and logistical labor simply to get noticed. You must flip the entire script. Concentrate all your efforts on building your intrinsic value. Sharpen your skills until they are razor-edged. Generate outcomes that speak with a deafening roar, drowning out the need for self-promotion. Transform yourself into someone that people actively want to connect with, learn from, and collaborate with. And then, with the patience of a predator, you wait. You let them come. When people are compelled to come to you, you are the one who dictates the terms of engagement. You set the pace of the interaction. You retain the ultimate authority to decide who is granted access and who is politely turned away. That is the very definition of power. But when you are the one who chases, you forfeit all of that leverage. You become just another face in the crowd, pleading for a chance to prove your worth. Position yourself as the ultimate prize. Not because you believe you are inherently better than anyone else, but because you have diligently built something that is worth seeking. The moment you transition from a mindset of chasing to one of attracting, every facet of your life will begin to change in your favor. Let us be brutally and refreshingly honest with one another. In the grand theater of human affairs, if people do not notice your existence, you effectively do not exist. You could be the most brilliant mind in any given room, the most highly skilled artisan, the most meticulously prepared professional. But if your talents and preparations remain shrouded in obscurity, if no one's gaze ever falls upon you, then all of your potential counts for absolutely nothing. Attention is not merely a component of power, it is the very currency in which power is traded. In a world saturated with noise, where every individual and every brand is locked in a relentless battle to be seen and heard, to be invisible is to be functionally dead. The majority of people are paralyzed by a deep-seated fear of standing out from the crowd. Their primary instinct is to blend in, to maintain a low profile, to remain silent when they have something to say, to play it safe at all costs. And then they are consumed by a sense of bewilderment as to why no one ever remembers their name. They wonder why their phone never rings when significant opportunities arise. They lament the fact that they are consistently overlooked and passed over for promotion. The reason is painfully simple. You cannot possibly be respected if you are not first noticed. The true geniuses of social and political strategy understand this axiom in their very bones. They know that the pursuit of attention is not an act of vanity. It is a fundamental act of survival. If you do not occupy a space in people's minds, you will never be included in their plans. If you lack visibility, you are, for all practical purposes, devoid of value in their eyes. Consequently, they are willing to do whatever is necessary to be seen. They speak up when others are silent. They execute bold, decisive actions that create ripples. They orchestrate moments so memorable that people find them impossible to ignore. They do not passively wait for someone to grant them permission to be noticed. They actively demand the spotlight through the sheer force of their actions and personality. As Machiavelli so astutely pointed out, men in general judge more by the eyes than by the hands, for everyone can see a thing, but few can feel it. People retain a vivid memory of what they witness with their own eyes, not what they are told about later through secondhand reports. They remember the audacious move, the controversial statement, the unforgettable and theatrical gesture. They quickly and completely forget the quiet, timid souls who chose to remain in the background, hoping their subtle merits would one day be discovered. Now, this is not a license to be obnoxious or to engage in crass, attention-seeking behavior like a petulant child. It means you must be strategic. You must be intentional. You must discover methods of standing out that are congruent with your authentic identity and with the empire you are trying to build. You must never, under any circumstances, allow yourself to blend into the wallpaper of life. You must either consciously draw attention to yourself or be prepared to disappear from the annals of history. Examine the life of any person who has ever achieved something of lasting significance. They were not invisible. They were not hiding in the shadows. They made noise. They created waves. They made people talk, debate, and even argue about them. Because here is the unvarnished truth of the matter. In the economy of influence, power is attention. Invisibility is death. When you are a figure who is noticed, doors that were once locked begin to swing open. People of influence initiate contact with you. Opportunities, as if guided by an unseen hand, find their way to your doorstep. But when you are invisible, you are condemned to fighting an exhausting uphill battle for the undesirable scraps that nobody else wanted. So, how does one court attention without appearing desperate or foolish? You accomplish this by doing something that is genuinely worth noticing. You create a form of value so potent that people find it impossible to ignore its existence. You make moves so bold and audacious that they are compelled to discuss them. You show up in the world differently. You communicate with a different cadence and vocabulary. You carry yourself with an aura of purpose and self-possession that sets you apart. You do not ask for attention. You command it by the sheer, undeniable force of your being. Abandon the flimsy excuses that have kept you hiding in the shadows. Stop telling yourself that you are waiting for the right time to step into the spotlight, for that time will never come. Eradicate the delusional narrative that your quiet, diligent work will eventually be noticed and rewarded on its own merits. That is not a reflection of how the world actually functions. The world bestows its rewards upon the visible, not the invisible. Be loud and resonant with your actions. Be memorable and indelible with your presence. Become someone who occupies the minds of others, a figure they cannot stop thinking and talking about. Because when all is said and done, the people who are remembered by history are always the people who refuse to be forgotten. The choice is stark and simple: stand out or be left behind. Here is a hard and unpalatable truth you must ingest. Absent a profound understanding of this principle, you are destined to squander your entire existence in a state of perpetual supplication, pleading for assistance that will invariably fail to materialize. You will make appeals to people's better angels, to their capacity for mercy, to their innate sense of fairness and decency, and you will be met with a resounding silence. Geniuses, however, never commit this fatal error in judgment. They do not petition for favors, they propose benefits. They have internalized the fundamental axiom that the most expedient path to acquiring what you desire is to engineer a situation where other people eagerly want to give it to you. This desire is not born from a wellspring of pity, but from a cold, clear-eyed calculation of their own self-interest. As Machiavelli once sagely articulated, a wise ruler secures his reign not by inspiring fear, but by meticulously satisfying the needs of the populace and ensuring no one possesses a rational motive to wish him harm. Therefore, when you find yourself in need of something from another person, you must excise all discussion of your personal hardships from your entreaty. Refrain from articulating the depths of your desperation. Never frame your request as an appeal for them to simply do what is morally right. Instead, you must re-architect your entire proposition to revolve around their aspirations, their requirements, and their latent desires. You must make it so blindingly obvious that assisting you is a direct and significant benefit to them that they would feel utterly foolish to decline. This is the bedrock upon which all significant deals are constructed. This is the mortar that binds powerful alliances together. This is the hidden mechanism that empowers individuals to move mountains for one another, not because they are possessed of a boundless generosity, but because it is the intelligent and strategic course of action. No one extends a hand without an implicit expectation of some form of reciprocal advantage. You must accept this reality. More importantly, you must learn to leverage it. Imagine you require someone's time, their specialized knowledge, or access to their resources. Eradicate any impulse to beg, to induce guilt, or to appeal to their sympathies. Instead, illuminate for them precisely how furnishing you with what you need will, in turn, help them acquire what they want. Will it save them valuable time in the future? Will it enhance their reputation, or make them look astute in front of their superiors? Will it open a door to an opportunity they have long coveted? Will it solve a peripheral problem for them that they hadn't even consciously identified yet? You must always find the angle, because here is the divergent outcome. When you appeal to someone's mercy, they might consent to help you once, perhaps out of a fleeting sense of guilt, but they will harbor a subtle resentment for it. They will actively avoid you in the future. They will mentally categorize you as a taker, a drain on their resources. But when you appeal directly to their self-interest, they assist you gladly and with enthusiasm. They perceive you not as a burden, but as a valuable and strategic ally. They will actively seek to maintain a connection with you because your presence makes their life demonstrably better, not more complicated. Learn to turn their own desires into your most potent weapon. Cease approaching people with your hand held out in supplication. Instead, begin approaching them with tangible value held firmly in your hand. The instant you pivot from a position of, "Please, I need your help," to one of, "Here is how this arrangement benefits you," every dynamic of the interaction transforms. People will stop viewing you as needy and dependent, and will start to see you as a savvy and strategic operator. That is the fundamental distinction between an individual people actively avoid and one they actively seek out. Always furnish people. with a compelling reason to assist you that has absolutely nothing to do with pity. Give them a reason that makes them feel intelligent and shrewd for saying yes. Master this law, and you will never again find yourself struggling to rally support for your endeavors. Here is a penetrating question that starkly separates the powerful from the powerless in any social ecosystem. Who in your life needs you more than you need them? If the answer to that question is no one, then you are in a position of extreme vulnerability. True, enduring power does not spring from a state of rugged independence, as is commonly believed. It germinates from the intricate art of making other people dependent upon you. When individuals in your orbit have a greater need for you than you have for them, you are the one who controls the fundamental dynamics of the relationship. You are the one who sets the terms of engagement. You are the one who ultimately decides the direction in which things will proceed. In such a scenario, they cannot afford to ignore you. They cannot easily replace you. They cannot realistically move forward with their own ambitions without your involvement or consent. That is the anatomy of real power. Most people, however, have this equation completely backward. They inadvertently structure their lives in a way that makes them utterly dependent on others, on a single employer, a single client, or a single patron. In doing so, they render themselves replaceable, forgettable, and ultimately disposable. And then they are consumed with bafflement as to why they possess no leverage, no tangible influence, and no meaningful control over the trajectory of their own lives. Geniuses never permit this to happen. They methodically architect their existence in a way that renders them essential to the key people and networks around them. Machiavelli noted that the most formidable fortress a prince can possess is not built of stone, but is found in the affection and necessity of the people. For even the strongest walls will not save you if you are despised and deemed irrelevant by those you rule. When people are dependent on you, they obey your wishes. This obedience does not stem from fear of punishment, but from a calculated need for your continued cooperation. Think about it. Who currently holds power in your life? It is invariably the people upon whom you depend. The individuals who possess something you critically need and cannot easily procure from another source. Now, invert that perspective. Who depends on you? Who in your world would be unable to function as smoothly or effectively without your unique skills, your specialized knowledge, your mere presence, or your singular contribution? If that list is perilously short, you are exposed and vulnerable. Here is how you alter that precarious state. You must actively strive to become indispensable. Cultivate skills so unique that others do not possess them. Amass a body of knowledge so specialized that others require it. Create a form of value so profound that others cannot replicate it. Position yourself as the master key that can unlock doors no one else can open. While independence is a form of strength, it is the cultivation of others' dependence on you that grants you control. This is not a call to manipulate people or to ensnare them in webs of obligation. It is about positioning yourself as so fundamentally essential that you are no longer considered an optional component in their lives. When you are essential, people will go to great lengths to protect you. They will invest in your success. They will keep you close and shield you from harm, because the cost of losing you would far exceed the cost of maintaining your allegiance. But when you are merely replaceable, you are just another name on a spreadsheet, easily deleted. Therefore, you must stop being average at a multitude of things. Stop spreading your focus so thin that you achieve mediocrity in all areas. Stop trying to be merely good enough at 100 different tasks. Instead, master one thing. Own a niche. Become the undisputed go-to person for something specific, valuable, and in high demand. Be essential, not replaceable. When people come to the stark realization that they truly need you, your position becomes unassailable. You are no longer fighting for a seat at the table. You own the table. And here is the added benefit. When you are essential, you no longer have to waste energy convincing anyone of your worth. They already know it. They feel it viscerally every time they encounter a problem that only you can solve. This is how you construct genuine security in an insecure and volatile world. This is how you inoculate yourself from the risk of being discarded when circumstances become difficult. Dependency is not a weakness when you are the one being depended upon. It is the ultimate form of leverage. So, Ask yourself with brutal honesty, what unique value do you bring to the table that no one else can? What would people irretrievably lose if you were to vanish from their lives? If you do not have a compelling answer, your most urgent task is to begin building one today. Make others need you more than you need them. And then watch how rapidly and exponentially your power grows. Here is a critical piece of strategic wisdom you must internalize. Arguments are a public exhibition of weakness. Every single time you engage in an argument, you are tacitly revealing that you feel the need to verbally convince someone of your position. And the very act of trying to convince someone implies that you lack definitive proof. You lack tangible results. You possess nothing but words. And in the calculus of power, words are the cheapest currency of all. Genuinely powerful people do not squander their precious time and energy engaging in arguments. They do not feel the need to defend their choices or justify their existence. They do not attempt to convert skeptics through rhetorical flourish. They do not get dragged into endless, fruitless debates about who is right and who is wrong. They simply execute their plans and win, and the act of winning has a unique power to silence every argument that has ever been made against you. True power does not need to convince. It demonstrates. Reflect on the last time you found yourself locked in a heated argument with someone. Were you successful in changing their mind? The answer is almost certainly no. This is because arguments are rarely about a mutual search for truth. They are about ego. They are a battleground where two individuals are fighting for the psychological satisfaction of being proven right, with neither party willing to concede ground. The entire exercise is exhausting, pointless, and worst of all, it projects an aura of desperation. As Machiavelli observed, a promise given may have been a necessity of the past, but a word broken can be a necessity of the present. What matters is the outcome, not the consistency of one's rhetoric. Actions create reality. Arguments merely stall its arrival. When you argue, you are trapped in a defensive posture, endlessly justifying your position. But when you act, you are actively proving it. You must let your results become the unassailable evidence that silences all opposition. Here is what geniuses do instead of arguing. They cease talking and commence doing. They stop defending and start demonstrating. They allow their victories, however small, to do all the talking for them while everyone else is still mired in the swamp of theoretical debate. If someone doubts your vision, do not waste your breath explaining it. Build it and show them. If someone questions your capabilities, do not mount a verbal defense of your skills. Prove them through flawless execution. If someone declares that you cannot achieve something, do not argue the point. Simply do it anyway, and let the accomplished fact stand as its own silent, irrefutable argument. Because here is the fundamental truth. People are quick to forget arguments, but they have an indelible memory for results. No one remembers who won the debate a year ago, but everyone remembers who won the game. Powerful people do not argue, they win. The moment you shift your focus from argument to action, a profound psychological transformation occurs within you. You stop caring about who believes in you and start focusing exclusively on what you can build. You stop dissipating your vital energy on individuals who are determined not to be convinced, and start channeling that same energy into creating results that cannot be denied. And when those results finally manifest, you will witness a curious phenomenon. The very same people who doubted you, who questioned you, and who argued against you will suddenly behave as if they had supported you all along. That is the nature of human psychology when confronted with undeniable success. So stop defending yourself. Stop explaining your every move. Stop feeling the need to make people understand your grand vision before you have built anything worth understanding. Go and construct something undeniable. Go and create something they cannot possibly ignore. Go and achieve something so significant that it renders the entire preceding argument utterly irrelevant. Action annihilates doubt more swiftly and more completely than words ever could. Let them talk. Let them question. Let them harbor their doubts. And while they are preoccupied with their debates, you will be preoccupied with winning.